Hi, I'm Kurt Thompson, trumpet player and brass coach. And if you're a comeback player, that's someone who's just restarted playing again after quite a long time of hiatus from the horn, I want to talk to you. And you could be a trumpet player or a trombone player, French horn player, baritone, euphonium, tuba. If you play one of those um, and you haven't played in a while, then I want to talk to you right now. I teach and play music full time. I pretty much have done that almost all my life. But I bet you didn't take that path that I did. At some point, you found a more lucrative career and you went that direction. And you put down your horn because you had to, because you had other obligations. Now life is a little bit easier. Maybe you're even retired or semi-retired, and you've decided you want to get back on the horn and start having a lot more fun. But there's one thing that really nags you, and that's playing your horn and enjoying music is much more difficult than you remembered.
My name's Don, and I learned about Kurt's course from a trumpet player in one of the bands I play in. I called Kurt. He told me he had some low brass students, and I decided to give it a try. Since taking Kurt's course, I've been able to play it to a fourth above D, that is to a G. So here are 8 bars of I'm Getting Sentimental Over You. Here goes.
Hey, you probably have noticed the sign I'm holding. 5 tips, 5 free tips for you if you're a comeback player. And you can easily and quickly get these 5 tips just by clicking below, down there. 5 free tips that you can use now. You can actually start employing those strategies now. And they almost have an instant effect on your playing. So go ahead and you can watch the rest of this video, or if you just want to skip this, and go ahead and click learn more and get these 5 tips. I guess the number one thing that I get from comeback players, and oh, by the way, I actually have taught probably close to 200 comeback players since 2009. And since 2009, I've taught a total of 400 musicians, ranging from kids all the way up to professionals. And most of these were done through my online programs and courses, live via phone, Skype, and also in person. But the interesting to note is that of the 400 folks that I have taught in the last 10 years, about half of them have been like you. About half of them have been either retired or semi-retired, or they're just coming back to the horn, and it's been years since they even picked it up. And that is the reason I got to thinking more about comeback players and how I could help you guys out. Several years ago, I don't know, 3 years ago, I actually developed a 20-week comeback player course that has just been amazingly more successful than I would have thought at that point. I mean, it really has. First, it's shortened the time. So I guess the number one question I get from comeback players is, how long is it going to take me, Kurt, to get back on the horn and get back to doing things that I did when I was younger? And my answer is negative and positive. Let's just, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but let's just be frank. Some comeback players never come back to the horn and never really get it going. And so that is part of reality. The main reason that they don't is they try to wing it and do it all on their own, or they're kind of perusing through the internet and forums, and they're thinking that they can just pick up little tidbits and start playing again. And some of these people just absolutely never start playing again. It's just too overwhelming, too much information overload. So that's number one. I guess down from that, a little bit better would be if you're lucky. Now, I'm saying if you're lucky, 1 to 3 years, if you're lucky, and that is if you're taking lessons from a good teacher, experienced teaching comeback players. It's critical that you get with the right teacher who has been around the block and has this experience working with comeback players. Now, beyond that, typically, if you're going to wing it on your own, you could be looking at 5 or 10 years. That's 5 to 10 years of hit or miss with watching a bunch of YouTube videos, of having your eyes glued to your phone or laptop on some of the many brass forums that you can get on, constantly reading posts and posting things yourself. And if you do it that route, you're probably looking at 5 to 10 years coming back to the horn, where you really feel good about what you're doing. So it's kind of daunting. Now, I mentioned my students from my 20-week, 5-month course. They come back to the horn in 5 months or less, and almost always they are better than when they played when they were younger.
Hi, I'm Bob. I've been practicing the trumpet since 1936. I've always had an upper range problem. I just finished Kurt's 3-month course and happy to say that I've not only increased my range but have added considerably to my endurance. I would heartily recommend Kurt's course. Thank you.
Wow. I guess another thing you might be wondering is, which method is best? Well, let me say this. The best method for you is to get a teacher, a trombone teacher, a trumpet teacher, preferably somebody that has a little gray on their sides. You know what I'm talking about? Someone who's played for 20 or 30 years, someone who's taught for 20 or 30 years or more. There's only currently one holy grail for brass players, and I'm not going to mention what that is right now. Setting that holy grail method aside, everything else is hit or miss. For example, you've heard of Claude Gordon. You may get a little bit of success with that, and you may not. Cat Anderson, you probably won't have much success with that at all. Baldwin, 37 weeks to double high C, maybe you might be lucky on that, maybe not. Maybe you're going to spend some time with the Bill Adam stuff and lead pipe buzzing and all the other things that he had. Maybe you might get lucky with that one. Let's see who else. Doc Reinhardt, hit or miss. Stevens, Palming, no pressure, hit or miss. Let's see some of the other ones that I'm not thinking of. Good old Maggio, Stamps. There's just a ton of different methods out there, and it's none of those methods are the holy grail for brass playing, unfortunately. And what that simply means is, when you're trying one method, it works for some, but doesn't work for most. So that's the problem. So if you want to look for and that's the reason, let's go back to how long will it take to come back? Well, that's the reason, that's one of the reasons. If you get involved in a method and you try it for 6 months to a year and it doesn't work, well, then what do you got to do? You got to try another method. And then you got to try another one. And that's why I mentioned it could take 5 to 10 years of messing around with these various methods that work for some, but not for most.
Hi, my name is Don Triplett. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I've just completed Kurt Thompson's 3-month upper register trumpet course, and I'm really pleased with the results, and I wanted to take a few minutes to provide some comments about my experiences in the program. First off, I'm proof that you don't have to be young or a highly trained professional in order to benefit from this program. As a rank amateur, I am neither highly trained nor am I young. While I've been playing the horn now for more than 50 years, that 50 years includes about a 20-year break while I was in the Air Force. But I've only been playing the horn correctly now for about the last 3 years. And that means I'm using my tongue now to produce the sounds, as opposed to just my face muscles by themselves, which is a real hard way to blow the horn. I want you to know that Kurt's instructions dovetail perfectly with the retraining I received on how to correctly blow the horn. To do that, he's helped me improve my playing, but even more importantly, he's helped me improve my enjoyment in playing, because I'm not focusing so hard on whether or not I can play a note. Now I'm looking more at how do I play that note. So again, do I highly recommend Kurt's upper register program? You bet I do. Thank you, Kurt, for what you've done for my playing ability and my playing enjoyment. And folks, I want to thank you a lot for watching. Now be well.
I guess another common concern that I get, in fact, is actually going on right now with a student that took my 16-week upper register course. He's a guy that lives in Florida, a very successful individual, retired in his mid-70s. And this is pretty common. He's had a lot of problems with his dental work and jaw, and right now they've been kind of working on some crowns and actually sanding those down. And so, but this is not rare or atypical. I've had many comeback players that have had surgeries and dental issues. But as long as you're out of the healing phase, in other words, you've already healed from your surgery or whatever corrective action your dentist took, this course of mine will get you back into gear. It will overcome most of the dental problems and situations that you have found yourself in, as long as you are healed. Now, as long as you are healed, then you would get involved in my course and you would probably wow yourself with the results that will happen quite quickly. The comeback player course that I've been talking about. If you are in the process of healing, if you've had some surgery on your gums or teeth, that kind of thing, then right now would not be the time to come back to the horn with anybody or anything. You need to let that heal first. There might be a couple of things that you could do, but really you want to let that healing begin and finish before you get really serious about coming back to the horn. Oh, after how long it will take and dental issues and things like that, I guess a biggie is what mouthpiece should I play, Kurt?
Hi, my name is Bruce Morris, and I'm just finishing up the Kurt Thompson high range course. I wanted to give you some information on his course and let you know what it has done for me. I used to play professionally in the 60s and 70s up and down the East Coast in a couple of rock groups, and in 1972 I decided to quit. When I was playing, I studied with people like Dr. Reinhardt in Philadelphia and Kurt Stevens in New York, and neither of those techniques seemed to really help in developing my range. I always struggled with range. I didn't have too much trouble with endurance because I was playing 6 nights a week, but range always seemed to elude me. After not playing for a number of years, about 4 years ago, I picked up the horn and started playing again. I surfed around the net and found several teachers that I contacted and studied with, several of whom were nationally and internationally known lead trumpet players, scream artists, and I would do what they recommended, and none of it seemed to really have any profound effect on my ability to play in the upper register, and I was getting continually frustrated. Then I ran across Kurt Thompson's course, and this course is done over the 3 months, 3.5 months I've been doing it with him, that if I continue to do these exercises, the only thing that will happen is my range will increase and my endurance will increase, which is a real joy to have that to look forward to. So if you're looking to increase your range, your endurance, and your all-around facility on the horn, I would, without reservation, recommend that you take Kurt Thompson's 4-month high register course. Good luck, and thanks a lot. Bye.
A lot of you might, if you're trombone players, maybe you have the good old tried and true 12C. If you're trumpet players, maybe you have the good old tried and true 7C, and then on and on and on for horn and baritone and tuba. So that is important. And also the horn that you play on is important. It will make a difference. Maybe when you were younger, you played on a much larger, more horn and you really liked it. You might find that really makes things much more inefficient and very difficult for you. If you're playing on a 460, a 462, a 464, or in my situation, I play on a 468, these horns take a lot more air and they're going to really impede your progress coming back to the horn. In the report here, the 5 tips that I'm going to give you, part of that is going to have some advice and strategy on just that. What horn should you be playing on? What mouthpiece should you be playing on? And I'll give some general to maybe some specific advice about that, and that will be in this report.
Hello, my name is Kerry Rifkin. I'm from Orange Park, Florida. I've been playing trumpet for a long time. Started as a kid. My father was a musician in Detroit, where I grew up, and I played with a good many trumpet players, one of which was Gordon Smith, who also played in the symphony. And I later played in my father's big band. My father was a reed man, played sax, clarinet, and flute, and became good enough about high school, early college level to play in the big band with him. Worked with some really fantastic trumpet players that no one's ever heard of, including Gordon Smith, guys like Wally Gomulka, Ted Gordon, Dave Kelton, real top-notch guys, play excellent trumpet in the local scene. Went to college for a while and did some professional work. And actually, in professional school, I went to, I played in a couple of polka bands, and give a shout out to Walt Cheswick and the Musical Ambassadors, and Kenny Pitlack and the Impalas, who I played with in the Detroit scene, in the polka scene anyway. Well, I gave up trumpet for quite a while after I went to work. I had about a 30-year career as a surgeon. And my son started playing a few years ago. I started to play back with him. I'm now in a couple of bands around town, having a good time with limited time to practice. And, you know, I consider myself a pretty good trumpet player, but my weakness is range and endurance, which makes me a pretty rotten trumpet player without the two main things that make for a good trumpet player. It's difficult for me with limited practice time, and I kind of got into a rut trying to keep the lip together good enough to play a couple of 4 or 5 hour gigs on the weekends. Essentially, I sought out a different way of doing it. So I caught Kurt's advertisement somehow on the web, and sought him out. He gave me a kind of a new format, new way to look at things, new way of practice, different set of techniques, and made it easy for me to formulate a practice form and perhaps improve. I think I've probably improved. If I had about 8 hours a day to play, I'm sure I've improved more. Signing out, have a good time. I recommend Kurt highly. Take care.
All right, and I saved the very last topic. It certainly is not the least. In fact, it might be actually the most. Range and endurance. That's usually what scares comeback players. That's why when I talk to people that either eventually take from me or they don't, or just hearing people ramble on about playing their horn after coming back, most comeback players get stuck on second or third chair. Let me say that again. Most comeback players get stuck playing boom, chick, 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 boom, chick, chick, boom, chick, 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 boom, chick. And if I'm a comeback player, I'm not coming back to the horn to sit on third part and warm my butt in the chair for 2 hours at a rehearsal. I'm not coming back for that. I'm coming back to have some fun. And playing third chair, and that is, if that's your destiny coming back, and that is a horrible, horrible life to be living. And that is a result of not having the range and not having the endurance and not knowing what the heck is going on. So range and endurance will be addressed in these 5 tips. In fact, if you get the 5 tips, you're going to find this quite outlandish and maybe an amazing claim. But I can almost promise you, if you get the 5 tips, within about a week, your range would shoot up just by about a half step. Yeah, I'm not talking about getting a new horn. Just by utilizing some of the tips, you might find your range about a half step higher after a week. Sound too good to be true? No, it's not. I've had so many people realize this result. Endurance. Your endurance might go up about 20 or 25%. So if you were playing if you're able to play for an hour, which I don't think that you probably are, but you would tack on another 15 or 20 minutes to that. So the range and endurance, it's a big one. It might be the biggest of all. It actually is addressed in these 5 tips that I'm going to give you. And like I said, wouldn't it be cool if a week from now, after seeing this, you have an extra half step on your range, maybe a whole step, and the mouthpiece is not killing your lips, and you feel like you can play another 20 minutes longer than you did before you saw me. So I'm Kurt Thompson. You can check me out. I have the largest collection of tutorials for brass players and lessons on my channel. I think I'm over 1,400 right now. So I've done a lot of free stuff for you guys. And like I said, I make my living teaching you guys. And if you'd like to find out more and get this strategy here with the 5 tips, go ahead and click down below. I think it might be Learn More. And I'll deliver these to you right away. And I'll see you over there. Bye-bye.